You think you know Rasputin, right? The mad monk, maybe the evil sorcerer from Kingsman, or the animated Anastasia.
Yeah, or those HBO shows, he's always this villain.
Exactly, like
Yeah.
purely evil, almost supernatural,
Yeah.
unkillable,
Right.
like something out of a horror story.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the Rasputin you think you know is, well, mostly fiction, like a carefully built story, not the real complex history?
That's exactly what we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive, going way beyond that sort of flat, cartoonish bad guy.
Okay.
We'll look at historical documents, some really surprising research findings, even drawing on personal visits to Russia to try and understand the real Grigory Rasputin.
Right.
The idea is to peel back all those myths, the stuff everyone kind of accepts, and see the historical truth underneath, which is often, well, a lot more complicated.
So when you picture Rasputin, like from those movies, this shadowy, really malevolent guy, where does that specific image, that powerful villain, actually come from?
Yeah. It's so important to understand why it stuck, you know? A huge chunk of what people know comes from really biased sources.
Like who?
Specifically, the memoirs written by his assassins. Prince Felix Yusupov, for instance.
Oh, okay.
I mean, think about it. If you kill someone, are you going to write a book saying how great they were?
No, definitely not.
Of course not. You build a story to justify what you did. You make the victim out to be a monster, someone who deserved it.
Right, makes sense.
And the public, well, they were looking for a villain, especially in this chaotic time, so they latched on to this negative image, and it just solidified.
It's just amazing, though, that this huge, powerful figure we see in films actually came from, like, the furthest reaches of Siberia. Pretty humble beginnings, right?
Oh, absolutely. He was born more than 2,000 kilometers from St. Petersburg in this tiny Siberian village, Pokrovskoye, near the Tura River.
Wow.
Even his name, Rasputin, it's ambiguous. Later on, people whispered it came from his supposed behavior being promiscuous.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But historians think it's much more likely it just meant crossroads, you know, from where the Tura and Tobol rivers meet near his home. There were loads of Rasputins in Siberia, apparently.
Huh. So not necessarily scandalous, then.
Not necessarily. His actual given name was Grigory, and there's even some debate about his birth year, January 9, 1869. Some think he might have fudged it later to seem older, maybe more authoritative.
Interesting.
And he was totally a peasant kid, illiterate, didn't learn to read or write until his late 20s when he was already traveling around.
Late 20s.
Wow. There's also this early story, probably not true, about him predicting a stolen horse. Maybe an early attempt to seem like a holy man, you know?
So, okay, how does this barely literate peasant from the middle of nowhere even start climbing the ladder?
Yeah.
Getting into, like, the highest levels of Russian society seems impossible.
It really does sound improbable. His early adult life was pretty standard for the time. He got married, had kids, 7 actually, though only 3 survived. His 2 daughters eventually moved to St. Petersburg with him later. But the real key was his religious pilgrimages. He started those around 18 or 19, traveling around like to Abalak where he met his wife. That slowly, kind of subtly, raised his social standing beyond just being a village guy.
Now, that famous label, the Mad Monk or Devil Priest, it sounds so intense, so religious, or even sinister. Was he actually a monk or a priest? How do you get stuck with those names?
Yeah, that's a huge misconception. He was absolutely not a monk or a priest in any official way. No, he was what they called a wanderer stanik in Russian, and that difference is really important.
Right.
Because he looked the part, acted the part, did the religious travels, but being unofficial meant he had freedoms that real monks didn't.
Like what?
Well, like drinking or, you know, visiting brothels, which ironically fueled a lot of the rumors about him later. It gave him this spiritual aura without the strict rules of the clergy.
And speaking of rumors and scandals,
Yeah.
there are those really shocking accusations about him being involved with the Klisti cult. Weren't they accused of, like, heretical orgies and stuff?
Yes, the Cliceris. What's fascinating here, and it really shows how reputations get twisted, is that while the Russian authorities did condemn them, accusing them of things like group orgies, the sect itself actually thought sex was a sin.
Oh, wow. So the opposite.
Pretty much. Their main thing was intense singing, dancing in circles until they reached this trance state, speaking in divine languages, a world away from the rumors.
So the orgy stuff was just made up.
Or wildly exaggerated by opponents. Rasputin himself was investigated maybe 2 or 3 times for being involved with them, and he was cleared every time.
But the rumors stuck.
Exactly. It was just too useful for people who wanted to discredit him. And here's a weird twist. It seems it was actually during his time around people connected to this group that he finally learned to read and write.
Huh. That's ironic. So, okay, even with these accusations flying around, he starts getting followers back home in Siberia, holding ceremonies in his cellar. That must have started turning heads.
It definitely did. He had this unique charisma. People talked about his intense eye contact.
Yep.
Some even whispered crazy stuff like he got it from staring at the sun to get psychic powers.
Right.
But this intensity, it really drew people in, especially women. Men often found it kind of off-putting, apparently.
Interesting dynamic.
And this magnetism, it eventually got him introductions to high-ranking Orthodox priests at Kazan Cathedral, a big religious center in Siberia.
Yeah.
That was his real stepping stone, paving the way towards the capital.
And so this uneducated Siberian wanderer, part charisma, part controversy, lands in St. Petersburg around 1903. This is the moment, isn't it? The door to the Romanovs opens.
It absolutely is. Those senior priests introduced him into aristocratic circles, specifically Princesses Milka and Anastasia. They were related to Tsar Nicholas II.
Okay.
And you have to remember the time. Russia was in turmoil internally. The aristocracy was kind of desperate, looking for answers, spiritual comfort. So they were really drawn to mysticism, to these holy men coming from the countryside.
So Rasputin wasn't the only one.
Oh, not at all. There was a guy, a Mr. Philippe, who came before him. He'd even apparently predicted a successor would follow him into the palace. Rasputin fit the bill.
But his real power, the thing that made him indispensable, it all came down to the Tsar's son, Alexei, didn't it? That hidden illness.
Exactly. Alexei had hemophilia, a terrible genetic disorder where his blood wouldn't clot. Even a small bump could cause severe, life-threatening internal bleeding.
And this was a huge secret.
A massive state secret. Only a tiny circle knew, revealing it could have destabilized the whole dynasty. Rasputin first gets called in just to pray for Alexei November 1st, 1905. That's his first meeting with the Tsar, who supposedly called him a man of God.
Okay, just prayers initially.
Right. But the defining moment happened later, at Spala. That was a royal vacation home in Poland. Alexei got badly hurt, maybe a fall, maybe a bumpy carriage ride, huge swelling, internal bleeding in his leg and groin.
Oh, no.
He was dying. The doctors could do absolutely nothing. So the Tsarina, frantic, sends an urgent telegram to Rasputin, who's way back home, 2,000 kilometers away.
Hang on. He's 2,000 kilometers away, and they telegram him. This is where it gets really weird, right? The miracle healing. He wasn't even there. How did that work? Sounds like magic.
It totally sounds like magic, and that's the key to his power, but the explanation is probably more, well, medical than mystical. So Rasputin sends a telegram back, and his crucial instruction was, don't let the doctors interfere too much.
Okay, why?
Because back then, standard treatment for pain and swelling was aspirin.
Right, makes sense.
But aspirin is an anticoagulant. It thins the blood. For someone with hemophilia, that's the absolute worst thing you can give them. It makes the bleeding catastrophic.
Oh my God, so Rasputin basically told them to stop giving him aspirin.
Exactly. By just stopping the aspirin, Alexei's body could finally start to clot naturally, and he recovers dramatically in just 2 days.
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Not magic, just stopping bad medicine.
Precisely. But for the Tsarina, it was a miracle. It cemented her absolute, unshakable faith that Rasputin had some divine power to save her son.
So did people talk about hypnotism too?
They did later on, with his general presence.
Yeah.
But the Spala incident, the telegram healing, that makes hypnotism unlikely for that specific crucial event.
So after that miracle, Rasputin must have been completely untouchable in the Tsarina's eyes. He becomes utterly indispensable, doesn't he?
Totally indispensable to her. She and the Tsar started calling him our friend, or Father Grigori. His visits to the palace got very discreet, often arranged through a lady-in-waiting whose house was next door, to avoid gossip.
Smart.
But this unique access, this direct line tied to Alexei's life, it made him incredibly powerful and, of course, incredibly vulnerable, a huge target.
Right. So as his influence grows, the number of enemies must have exploded. The rumors just got wilder.
Oh, completely wild. He was accused of everything. Being a heretic, still the Kleisty stuff, being a German spy, which, by the way, Berlin archives later showed was baseless.
A German spy, too. Wow.
Yeah. And then the most famous stuff, being this hypersexual machine, sleeping with noble women all over St. Petersburg. Crazy rumors about his physical attributes circulated widely, adding to this scandalous image.
Right, the legendary aspects.
Exactly. It got so bad that even the secret police who were watching him constantly sometimes had to step in to protect him from threats.
He needed police protection.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he survived multiple actual assassination attempts before the final one. That just added to the legend that he was somehow unkillable.
What kind of attack?
There was a kidnapping plot he managed to avoid. Someone poisoned his food once it killed his cat, but not him. And then a really horrific stabbing in 1914. A woman attacked him. His intestines actually prolapsed.
Oh, God.
And he still survived. You can see how the unkillable myth started.
Definitely. So then World War I happens.
Mhm.
Tsar Nicholas goes to the front in 1915, leaves the Tsarina Alexandra in charge, and she wasn't popular, being German-born.
Right. Terrible timing.
And this is when Rasputin's political influence just seems to explode.
Right. That's exactly the perception, and there's truth to it. The Tsarina, totally reliant on him for Alexei, started leaning on his advice for state matters, too.
Like what?
Appointing and firing government ministers, even generals. This happened over a relatively short period, really just 1915 to 1916.
He was really picking ministers.
He was certainly influencing the choices, yes. Remember that Cleasty investigation. The official who was deciding whether to pursue it suddenly got promoted, and the investigation was dropped. Convenient.
Very convenient. Was the Tsar okay with this?
The Tsar knew about it, but he often trusted Alexandra's judgment, or he dismissed the warnings as just people being biased against Rasputin. Alexandra's letters to Nicholas at the front often started with, "Our friend says," or "Our friend thinks."
Wow, our friend says, telling the Tsar what to do. The public must have been furious, especially with more press freedom then.
Absolutely incandescent.
Yeah.
The press had more freedom after the 1905 bloody Sunday crackdown, and they went after the Romanovs hard. Rasputin was the perfect target.
How so?
They painted him as this evil puppet master controlling the German Tsarina. They even printed cartoons and articles hinting at an affair between them. Politically, it was dynamite.
An affair with the Tsarina? That's explosive.
Hugely damaging. It got so bad that members of the Duma, the parliament, were openly denouncing Rasputin from the floor. The pressure built and built until this group of conspirators decided they had to take him out.
Okay, so this leads us to the final act, the infamous assassination. Who were the main players in this plot to, as they saw it, save Russia?
There were 5 main conspirators. The leader was Prince Felix Yusupov, incredibly wealthy, one of the richest men in Russia.
Yusupov.
Right.
What was his deal?
Complex guy. There were rumors about his sexuality, suggestions he might have been bisexual. Rasputin's own daughter later claimed Yusupov was kind of fascinated by Rasputin's, let's say, charm or his rumored virility.
Oh, okay. Who else?
Vladimir Purishkevich, he was a really hardline, right-wing politician in the Duma, very nationalist, part of the anti-Semitic Black Hundreds group. Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, he was the Tsar's cousin. And, interestingly, also Yusupov's alleged former lover.
Wow, okay. Lots of connections there.
Definitely. Then there was an army lieutenant named Sukotin and a military doctor, Stanislas Lazavert. Their goal was very specific. Kill Rasputin. Not overthrow the Tsar, just get rid of Rasputin.
And Yusupov had Rasputin's trust. He'd worked on that.
Yes, he'd carefully cultivated a relationship. So on the night of December 16th, 1916, the plan goes into motion.
What happened? How did they lure him in?
Yusupov invited Rasputin to his palace. The bait was that he'd finally get to meet Yusupov's wife, Princess Irina, who was famously beautiful.
But she wasn't there.
Nope, she was away in Crimea. It was a complete lie. Rasputin was apparently really excited about it. He told his confidant, who actually told the Tsarina. Alexandra apparently had a brief moment of doubt, wondering if Irina was really back, but she didn't push it, didn't intervene. Yusupov picks Rasputin up around midnight from his apartment. You can actually see the building today used a side entrance to dodge the police who were usually watching Rasputin.
Right.
Rasputin was apparently really proud of this white outfit he was wearing, a gift from the Tsarina. Yusupov later wrote he smelled of cheap soap and felt a quick pang of pity.
So Rasputin arrives at Yusupov's palace. He gets led down to the basement. What was the setup?
It was pretty elaborate. They made noise upstairs like a party was happening to seem normal.
Well,
Downstairs in this basement room, they had a table set with cakes and Madeira wine.
the famous poison cakes.
Exactly. Laced with a massive dose of cyanide. Some older accounts say arsenic, but likely cyanide. Enough to kill several people easily.
And Rasputin just ate them.
He ate the cakes, drank the wine, and the absolute shocking thing, nothing happened. Well, he seemed maybe a bit drunk, started salivating, burping, but he did not die.
Seriously, The poison failed.
Completely failed. Felix was totally stunned. He goes upstairs, totally panicked, tells the others it's not working.
I can only imagine their faces. So the poison plan is a bust. What's plan B?
Plan B is the gun. Felix goes back down. Maybe Purishkevich was with him. Accounts differ slightly. He pulls out a revolver and shoots Rasputin.
Where did he shoot him?
Close range. The shot hit him in the stomach area, likely damaging the liver or kidney. Rasputin collapses. The doctor, Lazaver, checks him, pronounces him dead.
Okay, so dead, finally.
That's what they thought. Huge relief. They all go back upstairs, maybe have a drink.
Well, wait, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the story, the legend, doesn't stop there, does it? This is where the whole rising from the dead thing comes in.
This is exactly where the legend gets cemented. Yusupov, maybe feeling uneasy, goes back down later to check the body one last time, and Rasputin suddenly lunges up, eyes open, apparently foaming at the mouth, grabs Felix, tries to strangle him.
No way.
Yes. Rasputin then somehow manages to break free, stumbles, crawls up the stairs, and makes it out into the snowy palace courtyard. He's yelling Yusupov's name, trying to get to the outer gate.
This is insane.
It's pure chaos. Purishkevich hears the commotion, runs outside, and starts firing his own gun. He misses a couple of times, then hits Rasputin probably twice in the back, and then a final shot, possibly to the head. Rasputin finally collapses in the snow, for good this time.
Wow, wow, that's the story everyone knows. Poison, shot, rises up, shot again. But hang on. This incredible, almost supernatural story. Where does it actually come from? Who's telling us this?
And that is the absolute crucial question. This entire detailed, incredibly dramatic narrative, the poison failing, the resurrection, the desperate struggle, it comes solely from Prince Felix Yusupov's memoirs.
Solely from him?
Pretty much entirely from him, written decades later in the 1950s.
Decades later, okay.
So think about his motivation. He needs to justify assassinating this guy who was close to Tsarina. How better than to paint Rasputin as an unkillable, demonic monster?
Right. Makes Yusupov look like a hero slaying a beast.
Exactly. If Rasputin just, died quietly from the first shot, it's not much of a story, is it? It doesn't make Yusupov seem like he battled superhuman evil. The simpler, less dramatic truth wouldn't sell books or justify the murder nearly as well.
So that whole resurrection scene might be exaggerated or fabricated.
It's highly likely it was heavily embellished at the very least to serve Yusupov's narrative. The medical evidence suggests otherwise.
Okay, so after this dramatic, drawn-out killing, what did they do with Rasputin's body?
They wrapped it up, tied his hands, drove it out to a bridge over the Neva River, and threw it into a hole in the ice early the next morning.
Into the freezing river.
Yep. And there's that detail, they apparently forgot his boots in the car and had to go back and throw them in separately.
Oh, right.
Word got out fast that the Rasputin was missing. A couple of days later, someone found one of his boots on the ice near the bridge, and that led them to find the body underwater.
And wasn't there something about his hands being untied when they found him? Adding to the myth?
Yes. That detail circulated too, that his hands, which they'd tied, looked like he'd managed to untie them underwater, as if he was still trying to survive.
Creepy.
Super creepy. But again, the autopsy report tells a different story. It concluded he died very quickly from the gunshot wounds. Probably survived no more than, say, 10 to 20 minutes after that first shot from Yusupov. Drowning wasn't the cause of death. He was about 47.
So the autopsy contradicts the struggling in the waters legend, too. What happened to the killers? Yusupov? Grand Duke Dmitri? Assassinating someone so close to the Tsar, even Rasputin?
Yeah.
There must have been consequences.
You'd think so, but because of their high status, their royal connections, the punishment was surprisingly light. Basically exile.
Just exile.
Yusupov was sent off to one of his country estates. Grand Duke Dmitri was sent to the Persian front. Basically military service far away.
Huh. That seems lenient.
It was. But here's the incredible irony. That exile saved their lives. Because just a few months later, the Russian Revolution exploded. The rest of the Romanov family who stayed in Russia met a terrible end. Yusupov and Dmitri, being exiled, survived.
Wow. What a twist of fate. Being punished actually saved them.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Okay, one last piece of the Rasputin myth. The prophecy. That famous prediction he supposedly made, that if you were killed by nobles, the Romanov dynasty would fall within months. It sounds so eerily accurate. Was that real? Did he actually say that?
Yeah, that prophecy is probably one of the most enduring parts of the legend, but historians are pretty unified on this one. There is no original copy of this prophecy. None has ever been found.
Ah, so it just appeared later.
It's widely believed to be something made up after the revolution, after the Romanovs were killed. It fits the tragic events so perfectly, it makes Rasputin seem even more mystical and powerful in hindsight. It's another layer added to legend after the fact.
Right. Makes sense. So, after all this, after peeling back the crazy stories, the assassin's justifications, who was Grigory Rasputin? What's the historical consensus now? Man, myth, monster.
Well, serious historians like Douglas Smith, who wrote a massive biography, argue that a lot of the really extreme stuff, him being a German spy, him having total hypnotic control over the Tsar and Tsarina, is just false.
The Tsar didn't always listen to him.
Often ignored his advice, actually. At his core, Rasputin seems to have been, well, a peasant. A devout Orthodox Christian, genuinely loved his family. He sent money home. He brought his daughters to St. Petersburg to get them educated.
Okay, more human than the myth.
Much more. His advice, while definitely uneducated, often came from his faith. He consistently argued against war and violence. Now, did he have gray areas? Absolutely. Some political meddling, definitely enjoyed the pleasures of life, perhaps a bit too much. But you could argue his accusers were maybe even more gray themselves. A lot of their motives were political self-interest, jealousy, needing someone to blame for Russia's huge problems.
So he was basically a scapegoat.
Ultimately, yes, that seems to be the most accurate description. A scapegoat. Think about it. Russia was facing massive, deep-seated problems. The war was going badly. There was huge social unrest. The autocracy was crumbling. It was far easier for people, for the elite, for the public, to blame one weird, charismatic, evil guy.
And to face the real complex issue.
Exactly. Easier to blame Rasputin than to confront the failing system.
Yeah.
And killing him. It didn't save Russia. It didn't save the Romanov. The revolution happened anyway. He got flattened into this cartoon villain in pop culture. But the real person was way more complex, caught up in these extraordinary, tragic times.
So today we've really gone from that dramatic, almost comic book villain we thought we knew to someone much more human. Maybe more tragic in a way. It really shows how history can get twisted by who tells the story, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. This whole deep dive into Rasputin, it's a perfect case study in how narratives get built, especially when people have agendas. That temptation to create a simple good guy versus bad guy story is so strong, particularly when a society feels like it's in crisis.
Yeah.
It simplifies things, gives people an easy answer, an easy target.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. After hearing all this about Rasputin, maybe think about how often, even today in our own world, we might be tempted to simplify really complex problems by just finding a single villain to blame for everything.
Good point. What's the real cost when we do that, when we create these simplified narratives? What are we actually avoiding looking at when we choose an easy scapegoat instead of tackling the deeper, much messier truths?